All right, so bicep curls, and specifically we're gonna do incline bicep curls here, and we'll touch on standing bicep curls. But what we're gonna do is get in position with Riley here. We're gonna get our arms extended. Now the big thing that we see with people here is what they're doing is they're probably sitting a little bit more upright, right? And or their arms are a little bit in here, a little bit more forward. We wanna make sure that arm is back and we're getting a good stretch out of this shoulder, right, in this position. And now what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep our elbows locked in place as we curl up. Go ahead. The problem that a lot of people run into here is that the humerus, right, is changing positions on them. So for most people, what's happening is as they start to curl up, that humerus is coming forward, and now we're starting to bring a lot of that shoulder into it, right? But we're also minimizing that contraction a little bit. We want to make sure that that elbow stays. Sometimes I'll put my hand here if I'm training somebody in person to cue them to push back on my hand. Sometimes, like at our gym specifically, we actually have pads that will attach here, elbow pads that we can put our elbow on and drive into that pad to be able to create a little bit more stability and get a little bit of a better contraction at the top. But essentially all we're trying to do here is stay in a position where we can rely specifically on elbow flexion and elbow extension, and nothing else is moving. Now this isn't going to change no matter what exercise we're doing. It's just the positioning of his arm here makes the incline dumbbell curl a little bit more unique in terms of that deep stretch that we can get into. But now, and again, I want to emphasize here that we're trying to stay into that lengthened position as best as possible. So sometimes what's going to happen is we'll come up to even that midpoint, and that's still going to be a very viable range of motion here. Trying to come too far up, eventually, Chris, if you want to pan to the side here a little bit, eventually what happens is as you come up through that movement, right, start to flex a little bit at the elbow, and then boom, that's perfect, right? But what happens sometimes is we come up, and then just by force of trying to get that better contraction, that elbow is coming up a little bit. Again, something that we want to stay away from. This is going to train more appropriately through that length and range. Your biceps starting to burn yet?
I'm losing feeling in my hands.
Boom, right? And that's usually going to be a perfect range of motion for us. But now this isn't going to change. Go ahead and stand up. If we're doing a standing bicep curl at all those points still apply. It's just a little bit of a different position. So if you want to go ahead and go through a couple reps there. So again, that elbow stays in a perfect position, right? Some people might call these drag curls. This is the only way that I would have somebody do curls, is to really keep that humerus locked into position and just going through that simple concept of elbow flexion, elbow extension. If we want to get really cool at the top, what we'll do is just bring that pinky over just a little bit. Look how stubby his fingers are. It's weird. But all we're going to do is come up and boom, because we can get a little bit more shortened at the top if we rotate through the wrist there just a little bit. But I think that basically covers everything, right? Right?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Out. Bicep curl.